Hello, welcome to the Talking City podcast, coming to you from the Manchester Evening News. My name's Joe Bray, joined by Simon Bajkowski in a fancy new studio as well. It's
coming from the Manchester Evening News offices, yeah. It's been a while and we can't even blame COVID.
No, I know. It's. I'm not sure it's the end of the dodgy streams on.
But
on Zoom, but hopefully a bit more of this.
Hopefully, yeah. So we can be in person together.
This is it. It's.
We don't get enough of it at games. That's the thing.
No, well, let's start with the game on Wednesday, and it was different in the sense that City needed to win and they needed to get through in the Champions League. We were sort of tucking into our ham sandwiches beforehand, and then we suddenly turned into.
You might have been. I didn't get any tea.
Well, for the reasons.
Yes. Yeah. Fire.
It was very odd, wasn't it? It was sort of out of nowhere, and not that anyone would have expected it, but.
No, but a lot more people were aware of it because City were in the middle of hosting a signing event for their new signings, and Kusnov and Raish and Marmoush were about to come on, weren't they? And the women's signings were being unveiled to fans when, merchandise kiosks just erupted into a fireball.
And obviously, thankfully, no one was hurt. But of where it could have happened, it couldn't have been more inconvenient.
It couldn't have been closer to the stage.
From where the players arrive, where these signings are being announced, which never happens because they only announce signings once, twice a year. Yeah.
They rarely do these signing events, so there wouldn't normally be that many people in that area. So it couldn't have been worse time.
And you've also got a platform full of cameras and journalists waiting for these new signings. And they just suddenly turn their heads 90 degrees and, there's a fire.
Yes. Yeah. So the intrepid journalists that we are, we rushed up to one of the turrets to get a better view of everything. Through the smoke, we braved the smoke for the readers and the listeners and all those people. And thankfully, not much happened. It was just kick-off a bit of inconvenience for fans having to go round the stadium to avoid that bit, and the team came in a different entrance. I don't think that affected them at all. But Pep said, didn't he, when it was half time and they were 1-0 down and he'd seen the fire, and he was like, the journalists have got their headlines, haven't they? It was like, it was looking like that.
And he was joking, but I think we probably all put some sort of fire.
Oh yeah, I definitely did. Yeah, but I mean, my thing was that like fire is like a big event. It's aggressive and it sort of is a force of energy. Whereas City were anything but that in the first half against Club Brugge. They were anemic.
Lovely segue into the game. It did feel like that they were sort of entering the stadium where sort of something had gone up in smoke, and at half time the Champions League chances were
they were out. I mean, they were out from the moment they kicked off, but they were more out at half time because they were 1-0 down. But it was one of those things where you're waiting for City to do something and they just didn't for so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if they'd gone in at 0-0, you'd think, okay, Pep team saw it, they can come out and smash it, and in the end they did. But that goal on the stroke of half time, it was all the worries that had been building for 45 minutes of City are too slow, they're not doing much, Brugge are just picking them off on the break again and again, and then they did it in the sort of 44th, 45th minute, and Nunes goes in for a tackle that he's not even convinced himself he's going to win, and they exposed every single weakness in that City first half in that move, and they deserved to go ahead. Yeah.
Club Brugge were excellent, but they settled back sort of to make themselves really compact really quickly, and it felt like there was just like a sigh from the team and from the crowd, and everyone was like, oh, it's going to be one of those games, it's going to be one of those nights. And like you think of like the Etihad at its best with like Bayern Munich or Real Madrid, and such like a cauldron, and the team playing aggressively and everything like that, and it was just the opposite. It was just, for the first half, everyone inside the stadium was just thinking, well, this is a bit miserable, isn't it?
Yeah, it was quiet, wasn't it?
It was quiet, it was flat, and and there was no spark from anyone on the pitch. Anything Foden or De Bruyne did kind of just didn't work. And
it was when the team sheet was there. It was Gundogan, Bernardo, Kovacic, De Bruyne, all of those in midfield.
It was three centre-backs, 6 central midfielders and a centre forward, no width whatsoever. And it showed. It wasn't good to watch, was it?
No, it was. I mean, there were flashes. There was a couple of 5-10 minute periods where you thought, okay, they're building something here, and then one breakaway and they just fell back into the shell. And
it felt like Club Brugge had easily the 2 best chances of the half, maybe 3. I can't remember City creating much, whereas Brugge had the goal that they scored, but also the chance early on.
Because they needed a point to go to almost guarantee going through. And as it turned out, PSG were beating Stuttgart, and that sent them through anyway. But
they only made it through on goal difference with a defeat, didn't they? So a point would have made them safe.
So they had something to play for, but they were definitely going for the win.
Yeah, and looked like they'd get it at half time.
Yeah, and we were writing. So at half time, I sort of start writing what I think is going to happen, and I was writing that they were out because I couldn't see from what we'd had this season that they were going to turn it around. Yeah,
and I started writing that they were terrible because they were. And, got a bit of stick at full time for writing that they were terrible and sort of well.
It doesn't change. The fact that they came back doesn't change the first half.
No, but also I don't think they were brilliant in the second half. They did enough to win, and the change, Savinho changed the game. Savinho won them the game.
Yeah.
Came on at half time, won them the game, but it wasn't a brilliant team performance. And he was one of those where normally in these situations where it's sort of big team versus lesser team, the big team comes back and immediately sort of overpowers the lesser team, whereas who scored to make it 1-1? Kovacic scored to make it 1-1, and then you were Club Brugge were right, we'll have 2 more, thanks. It was they were the better team at 1-1.
Yeah, absolutely. And then sort of the second goal comes from a good move, but an own goal.
Yeah.
You could see Guardiola's reaction, which was he was kicking the water bottles, and he knew how big that goal was.
Yeah, but credit to him for the halftime change because it was needed, and I didn't think Gundogan was terrible, but Foden, it wasn't happening on the left, funnily enough. Moved him inside, Savinho on the left, and instantly he made something, didn't he? He got 2 corners in the first 2 minutes, and the second one came to De Bruyne, who curled it in for Stones 4 yards out to head it in, and he heads wide. Are you thinking, oh, right.
Yeah.
Pep's got his head in his hands. But he made something happen, did Savinho. He took players on. He created a bit of chaos.
Yeah.
And that is what the team needed, but it's what the fans needed. It's a bit it's a bit weirdly English, isn't it? Everyone cheers corners so much, but it's kind of what was needed to get everyone going. And sort of everyone, both City players and the crowd, responded to Savinho.
I think that Stones chance gives on about 46 minutes and a half. That was important for that very reason. Just getting City to believe that they can get through and getting the fans up, because they were probably going to come out at half time. Yeah, understandably very nervous.
And that was the clearest chance they'd had by far. So it was actually we can make these openings. We just need to take them.
And then it helps that Bruges just parted and let Kovacic jog through and pass into the bottom corner. But you need that.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of weird descriptions of that goal, like a transition or everything like that, and it was just he just picked it up and ran, and nobody tackled him. So
he was looking for the pass,
running.
He was looking for someone to pass to, and then was I'll just pass it in the back of the net.
It was that's why Pep bought progressive midfielders. That's why Kovacic, and it's he just kind of ran, didn't he? It wasn't a great goal to concede. I think we'd have had a fair bit to say about City's defence if it had been the other way around. But credit to Kovacic for spotting the opportunity and taking it, I suppose.
Yeah, I didn't think he had the best game, but he scored and helped in that moment, in that sort of early second half period. He was quite important in getting them forward and getting them moving.
He's not doing the things that he needs to do in his position, which is causing City to concede goals. But he did score, so that kind of cancelled the other out on the night, but he's still kind of in deficit at the minute, I think.
It was interesting to see John Stones push into midfield a bit about 3 days after Guardiola had said, I struggle to see a midfield solution with John Stones because he's never fit. Yeah. And then John Stones is in midfield because Bruges were playing so deep, and it felt a little bit like 2023 again, where he's stepping in that area, and maybe Kovacic needs that help, but as Pep said, we don't know if Stones is going to be fit for Arsenal, for example, and we can't rely on him to play every 3 days, every 4 days.
Yeah. I thought it was all right from Stones. Good on the ball. I thought he was kind of as shaky as everyone else was at the back. But he's such a lovely footballer to watch on the ball. I think everyone just wishes that he can have a spell of a few weeks, a few months where he's able to play regularly. He's still started more England games since the summer than he has City games. It's damning. And if you were his employers, Manchester City, you wouldn't be very pleased at all. If he can start 7 games in a row for England in the Euros in a matter of weeks, surely he can do it for City at some point in this season. And they're going to need him.
Moment.
Yeah.
Is it because we've been saying that and sort of moving maybe in that direction of, do you make that decision about him? You can't rely on him. And then you see him for 45 minutes in that game, even though it wasn't a great 45 minutes, but you see him just transitioning into midfield, and you see what he can bring to the team, and especially with Rodri out. If he can do that and help Kovacic, you can see the team just getting a little bit smoother.
Certain players just have an aura. And like we're talking about the best players in the world have an aura. Erling Haaland has one. Rodri has one. Foden has one when he's in form. Ruben Diaz has one. When Diaz comes into the defence, it feels different. And Stones has it when he steps into the City team and steps onto the ball.
Yeah,
everything feels like City are better.
And it was his ball to
Savinho for the third. Really good ball. Like Rodri could easily have played that ball or something like that. It was, and that was the goal that really made City relax, because it was 3-1 with 15 minutes to go. And I know there was a few final jitters, but you felt the game's done. You felt like Brugge were happy with the result. And City, whether it was because Brugge weren't pushing them up too much or whether they would just manage the game better, they passed out the final 15 minutes and got the win that they needed to take them through to the Champions League playoff.
And I thought it was quite a funny moment at full time where everyone's looking at the phones, but it wasn't fully confirmed. We're still waiting for the results, but the Tannoy announced that it would be Madrid or Bayern.
Yeah.
And there was sort of a couple of claps, a couple of like, oh, is this, we've got through, but at what cost? It's the price of finishing 22nd, really, isn't it? You put yourself at risk of facing those other teams.
Yes and no. I think if you finish as low as City did, you can't have any you can't be upset that you've drawn a really good team.
No.
But I think there is still a lot of luck and randomness in the draw. You'll forgive me if I can't remember who finished 9th or 10th.
Atalanta or Dortmund.
Right. So if you finish 24th, you get a better draw than if you finish 22nd. And I'm not sure that's fair.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, City have got an unfair draw. I just think, I said it last week, either you have the top 8 teams seeded and the bottom 8 teams unseeded in an open draw, or you have 9th place 24th, 10th place 23rd, and you do it like that.
The pairing thing is a bit
odd. The pairing thing is odd. So City can have no complaints. UEFA are absolutely laughing, by the way, because, even if they don't get one of City or Real or Bayern in the last 16, they get 2 matches between them anyway. Absolutely. They get this playoff round. So I think they will be very happy with that, because it was sort of an unconventional top 8, really, for...
Yes, yeah.
And then it's Atletico or Leverkusen in the last 16. And again, I think there's a bit of there's a lot of randomness to it. And I know a draw is random, but at least it's a draw.
Yeah.
So but City can have no complaints. They're very lucky to make it into the top 24, considering they played 8 games and the only teams they've beaten are Sparta Prague, Slovan Bratislava, and Club Brugge. But they've got this one last chance to make it in, and they've got to beat one of the best teams in the world to do so.
It feels like that, doesn't it? And we're recording this about an hour before the draw, so we're talking about it could be Madrid or
Real or
and
yeah, but it don't make much difference, does it?
By the time anyone listens to this or watches it, we're going to know the route through the Champions League.
Yeah.
But I think those two teams are similar in the fact that it's going to be difficult and City will have to be better. And both of those teams can exploit Matheus Nunes at right back or the open midfield, or if it's Kusanov or anyone at centre back.
Yeah, Kusanov versus Kane or Nunes versus Vinicius is the weighing up. And like Pep said, one's the king of the competition and the other is second or third. Mm-hmm. Both teams have been better than City this season considerably. Both teams are also nowhere near their best. So, you know, whoever it is will start as comfortable favourites. But you never know. And City would rather the second leg be at home. But the way it is, the way the season's going, maybe they need the first leg at home, which it will be, to build up some confidence. And if they win that first leg, then
they've got something to take to Madrid or Munich.
Yeah.
Atletico or Leverkusen after that is a big if, but not necessarily the easiest. And then after that, it would maybe be Arsenal, Inter Milan, Juventus, AC Milan, or Feyenoord again. It's not an easy route, and I know this.
It's not an easy route. I'd be surprised if they make it through the playoffs. So, a lot of it will be a surprise. But it's one of those things. If they make it through the playoffs, suddenly no one wants to play them because, as bad as they've beaten Real or Bayern, and whoever beats one of those teams normally wins the Champions League. So
that was the line afterwards, wasn't it? Pep was like, they don't want to face us either. And we spoke to Manu Akanji, and I think Guardiola said it as well. They still feel confident they're as good as anyone in Europe. Maybe on the day rather than this season. They still feel like they are feared as well as. But all the questions were sort of like, have you lost sort of an edge in Europe? Are you going to struggle against these sides? And they were like, maybe, but they're going to fear us as well. Yeah.
But also, I mean, you know, Wednesday night felt like you cannot play Matheus Nunes at right back again against anyone decent.
No.
You can't. But Pep was saying, I've potentially got 5 new players for this next round against Real and Bayern because I've got Kusanov, Reis, Marmoush. I've got Diaz and Ake. Mm-hmm. You know, he's expecting, and Bob as well, so 6. You're expecting, or Pep is expecting these players to be in and around it for the playoff. And that means you don't have to play Nunes at right back. You can play Kusanov if he looks like he can do it. You can play Akanji, you can play Stones, because you've suddenly got the players to be able to do that, whereas he hasn't. So, you know, if you're talking about a back line of Stones, Akanji, Diaz, Gvardiol, or chuck Ake in there or whatever, suddenly the team looks a lot better. Mm-hmm. And one of those can push into midfield and help whoever's there. And like it won't take much for City to be in a better position, whether it's a strong enough position to be able to compete with Real or Bayern, you don't know. But like you can see why Pep is feeling quite confident about it.
And there's an argument that it could help them to play someone so good in that they've just got to be good.
Yeah.
So there's no sort of easing themselves into this knockout stage. It's just you've got to beat these teams on the way to the final anyway if you think you're going to be contenders to win the competition. So you may as well get them out of the way early.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the process of picking themselves up from the floor going down to the floor has been how good or bad a team are we? Which level of team can we beat? And like, you know, lost to Spurs in December, they lost to United in December, they lost to Villa in December. And then they come back and they start picking up a few wins. And then it's, PSG. Oh, no, we're not a level to compete with PSG. Chelsea, yeah, it turns out we can. Arsenal this weekend is another. And all you can do is just keep going and thinking, you know, how much are we back to where we want to be? And you won't know until you play them. So I don't think they'll be going into the game against whoever they play thinking, oh yeah, we're going to smash these. But they've got a chance.
Yeah, so it's Arsenal, Leyton Orient, playoff, Newcastle, playoff, Liverpool, Tottenham, Forest, Brighton, game against Leicester, then United. It's going to be
horrible. They're going to lose 2 or 3. But if they win 5 or 6, it's good. You know, and however many they win or lose will be determined by the results they get at the start and how they continue, which sounds incredibly basic, doesn't it? It's like, oh yeah, but it is about momentum and confidence, and the more they can not lose or win, the more confidence they will pick up, the more players are coming back. So I think
it's 1 defeat in 9 now. It's steadily getting that rhythm back and the confidence back and the momentum. And
yeah, not losing is something, isn't it?
I think Akanji said that the other day. The question was just, what's the mood like? And he said, well, it's better when you win.
Yeah.
And it's simple, but
even not losing, like PSG felt demoralising because it was like they were just running through them and scoring at will. Whereas even if you can't win, just not losing feels a lot better as something to take away. You know, if they draw at home to Real or Bayern, I'm sick of saying Real or Bayern. We say Real or Bayern, that it's good and it's something to take to the away leg. If you lose at home, then you think, well, game over.
Yeah.
And if you win at home, then you're right in the mix. So it's definitely something they have to build, and Pep thinks they will be in a better position in a few weeks than they are right now. We'll see what happens with Arsenal. We'll see what happens with Leyton Orient, which is a bit of an outlier, but a chance to pick up a win with some fringe players. So it's I'm excited by the draw.
Yeah, I mean, the alternative, like say, for example, they finished 24th, it's Atalanta or Dortmund, as we say, Lille or Villa in the next round.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily harder games, but they're easier to slip up. And if you go out to any of those teams, it's a bit more of a crisis. If you go out to Real Madrid or Bayern Munich, you do it in a way that you've pushed them all away.
And unless you've been embarrassed, then it's no bad thing.
Probably maybe better to go out like that. I know they won't be thinking of that, but
yeah,
you prefer to go out to Real Madrid than Lille.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, or Villa or Dortmund or Atalanta.
It's going to be an interesting one. I think I saw Liverpool are quite happy that their route to the final, the hardest team they can face before the semi-finals is PSG, which City have shown are beatable, even if they didn't beat them themselves.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, if City wanted a better draw, they should have won all them games and finished in the top 8. And
correct. Yeah.
there's a lot of ifs and buts and
and as you know, as much as I do think it's a bit unfair, the drawing, like if you finish in the top 8, it gives you a better chance of an easier draw. Just like if you're top seeds, it gives you the better chance of an easier draw in the old system. It doesn't guarantee
and
you
benefited from that.
Yeah, it doesn't guarantee you an easier draw, but you should get one. And so, like the top 8 teams have all deserved it. Yeah,
I was going to say, what's your verdict on the new league?
I don't like it. I don't know if that will be a surprise to you. Well, it's a league, but it isn't.
Yeah.
You know, it's judging 36 teams over 8 games where not everyone's played the same. And this isn't like saying this, because City have struggled in it, because City have played some of the worst teams in it. City have barely played any of the top teams, and they've still struggled.
I think if you're the top teams, have maybe taken it for granted and just thought, we always finish top, we'll do fine.
Yeah. But I think City's mentality in the old format was like, win the first 4 games. Yeah. Try and win the first 4 games. And then you qualified, you can do what you like in the last 2. City's first game in this new competition was Inter at home. And I'm not sure City went out to win that game.
I think they were happy with
drawing against they went out to win the game, but they weren't, trying to kick the door down to get a late winner. Or not that they would have done in the old format, but I think they would have shown more intent to win the game. Because it sends out a marker, you instantly get control of the group. If you beat Inter in a 4-team group, you get control of the group.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you beat Inter in this one, you're sort of 8 goals behind Bayern Munich, who've beaten Dynamo Zagreb, kind of thing. It doesn't matter. So that's obviously City's issue if they didn't do that. But I do think there's kind of no jeopardy at all in the whole thing.
City have been rubbish and still qualified.
Yeah.
And none of the big teams didn't qualify.
Yeah, like going to Paris last week, it was like, oh, they need to win this. And it was like, they really don't. They can lose it and still qualify. And like, it came down to 40. City were out for 60 minutes or whatever, but it never really felt like they were at a desperate stage because you still
never
kind
like
of
the nerves and they had to score the next chance.
So I think City are a good case for why I don't like it. Like, I
think from a neutral perspective, it's good to see these bigger teams tested or caught out if they've not approached it as they perhaps should have done, and to see teams like Villa or Lille or Leverkusen, who are all good teams but finishing the top 8, they've played their fixtures well. And beating the teams that are around them or below them,
and Celtic through. And do you know what the best moment of the group stage for me was? Going to Slovan Bratislava and seeing how thrilled they were to be in the competition and hosting City, because they just wouldn't have had the chance in the old competition. So I think for the teams that wouldn't normally be there, it was absolutely brilliant. But in a sense of sort of evening out the competition, I'm not sure it has yet. Maybe those bottom teams will become more competitive and it'll work a bit like that and take a few years to get going like that. But as it is, City have been pretty dire and we're never in danger of going out.
Yeah, I can see both arguments. I think it's shown itself to be an exercise in getting more money and more games.
And that's it, because you can say, oh, well, one of City or Real or Bayern won't be in the last 16. And it's like, yeah, that's true, but they could have drawn each other in the last 16 and then none of them would have been, one of them wouldn't have been in the quarters. So does it really make that much difference?
And you still then potentially have a Madrid derby in the next stage, or there's a lot of good matchups that can still happen because you've kept all these teams in the competition. I think you needed one big matchup in this playoff round. You're probably safe to assume that would happen.
But because you got that, it means that UEFA get what they want. UEFA get the interest. Because really, like, what does it matter who qualifies from the playoffs to the last 16? It's still so far away from anyone winning it, but everyone wants to see.
So it's similar to Europa League had that, didn't they? Where you have that playoff to get into the next bit. I like the bracket that's Juventus or Feyenoord against PSV or Milan, so you could have Juventus versus Milan or PSV Feyenoord. So I assume it will be the opposite way around by the time anyone's listening to this. But there are these stories. Let's move away from Champions League. 2 or 3 days left of the transfer window, which goes into the 2nd of February.
Yes.
Any movement, do we think? They've made the 3 signings. They're quite happy with that, but it feels like they're still looking open to another addition.
Still looking. Midfield is the one where they might move. Cambiasso, they are interested in, have been interested in, but it's not really one for this month. Like, it might get done in summer if they're still interested and if they still need that position. But midfield is the one where they are looking at and thinking if it's worth strengthening. Because I think the displays over the last month or so would suggest that it is. I mean,
the results have improved,
season,
but teams are still getting through that midfield so easily.
Yeah. Gundogan isn't particularly comfortable playing in that role and has played too much there. Kovacic, I'm not the biggest fan of in that role on his own. I think he needs help. I think he
said at the start of the season, I can play there. This was before Rodri's injury. He said, I can play there, but I need someone else. I'm better when there's someone else there.
Yeah.
And he's not always had that because of injuries and other things going on.
So for that reason, but then also is a really key position. They need to get it right. When it's that key, I think you need to be looking at the summer. And someone like Edison from Atalanta, as annoying as it would be to have 2 Edisons on the team, you've got a far bigger chance of landing a player you really like there in the summer window when it's not the middle of a season than you have in the thick of it when Atalanta are sort of flying high in the Champions League and Serie A. So I'm not sure that will get done. And then the only other thing is maybe McAtee leaves. Because
I mean, if you're McAtee, you look at Marmoush coming in, Oscar Bob's coming back.
Yeah.
Those minutes that he was getting, and he's looked all right.
And you weren't getting any minutes before they've come they've come in. So
probably looking at Leyton Orient and thinking, okay, I'll play it.
Yeah.
A League One club, but am I going to play in all those fixtures that we just said? And the answer's probably not.
No. And like he did come on at PSG, but it's that kind of. Would he have come on if Marmoush was on the bench? Would he have come on if Oscar Bob was on the bench? It's just two more players that you think are instantly above him in Guardiola's plans. But Pep keeps saying, I wanted to keep him. I chose to keep him. But he's got 18 months left on his deal. So if you are City and you are being a business about this, which they are, like they should be selling him in this window because it's if he's not part of the long-term plans and the fact that he's got 18 months left on his deal suggests that he maybe isn't, then you get more money for him now than you will in summer. So maybe sell him.
Did you see that video of him declining?
I did. It was very funny. Very funny.
I was reading an article here where apparently he's ruined that child's birthday.
I particularly liked the child's mum who atted both the Manchester Evening News and the Sheffield Star, and also Jack Grealish.
Well,
just like, Jack, if you fancy doing anything about this injustice.
Grealish, the player who is fairly partisan himself when it comes to club rivalries.
Yeah. And I think has a lot of history with Sheffield United. Was it Villa?
I mean, it really wouldn't surprise me.
I think he maybe scored a goal that, I'm not sure, but... yeah, but I mean, it's nice. I like that stuff. I like the rivalry between, because it's Shea Charles, wasn't it? So Shea Charles, who was at City before he moved to Southampton, has been on loan at Sheffield Wednesday for the first half of the season, and then Sheffield United wanted to loan him for the second half of the season, which would have been horrendously awkward, made even more awkward by the fact that his brother plays for Sheffield Wednesday as well. So it's all got sorted out and he's staying at Wednesday, but it would have been, you wouldn't have wanted to be Shea Charles in Sheffield had he switched between clubs.
Having lived in Sheffield, there is a lot of, a massive divide between those clubs, and that's not a surprise, but I think McAtee's probably done well to...
Yeah.
Whatever he does, he's getting a negative headline and upsetting someone in that instance.
Yeah.
One point I was just going to make about Edison and Atalanta is Atalanta have a pretty decent run in the Champions League now. They've got Sporting or Brugge in the playoff, Lille or Aston Villa, and then maybe Liverpool. But that's a quarter-final. Anything can happen, and they probably want to keep one of the best players who's scored to get them into that. He scored at Barcelona in the last game.
They knocked Liverpool out last year, didn't they? Of the Europa.
I mean, they've always been a good side, haven't they?
Yeah. But I think they absolutely hammered them at Anfield. Was it 3-0 or 4-0?
Rings a bell.
So, you say good. They've got a clear route through until Liverpool, and not saying Liverpool will be a walkover, but they won't fear Liverpool. So they will be fancying the chances of going all the way, and they're doing very well in Serie A as well. So and Italy feels like it's up for grabs. The title is there for the taking, because Inter have struggled a bit more than they did. So it's long live Atalanta.
But their position is a lot stronger after this week's results. City going to Arsenal, and that is another big game. Maybe not with the title on the line, but there's a lot of needle between those two sides, and a lot of needle in the game at the Etihad. And I was sort of looking back on that and remembering, Trossard was sent off, and Arsenal didn't like it, and Haaland threw the ball at Gabriel's head and then told Arteta to be humble, and
Arsenal
Bernardo
didn't like it, and City scored and Arsenal didn't like it, and the referee blew his whistle and Arsenal didn't like it, and it's a shame Michael Oliver can't be there to
the referee followed the laws of the game
To
and
take
Arsenal
part.
didn't like it. But then Bernardo
Yeah.
comes out and has a go at Arsenal's trophy record, and I'm quite looking forward to a game without a title race narrative.
Yes.
Because I think both of those teams are just going to go at it.
I'd be interested to see what it's like because previously in recent years it's been very, very hot between the two, but they've been in the midst of a title battle between the two of them, and now neither of them are going to win the title. So will it be as much? Because I mean, they don't like each other, the clubs don't like each other, like at boardroom level they don't like each other, but that doesn't necessarily have to transpose onto the pitch. I'm sure that whoever is refereeing the game will be put under immense pressure by the home crowd, as is the right of any home crowd. And City will have to make sure that they don't give the referee any chance to placate the home supporters and this Lewis Skelly thing, like, it shouldn't have been a red.
No.
It probably shouldn't have had the outraged coverage that it has had. Like,
it wasn't the worst ever decision in the Premier League.
It wasn't, and also the idea that there'd be some kind of conspiracy to stop Miles Lewis Skelly from playing against Manchester City, saying this ahead of his 2 match-winning goals. But of all the threats in the Arsenal team, you're not thinking, oh, got to watch out for Lewis Skelly. So, yeah, I say it all the time with Liverpool and with Arsenal. You just want a match where you don't have to write up a club statement. Really.
I think you're safer with Arsenal, maybe. But
Yeah.
there's gonna be stories afterwards.
Yeah.
There's always someone always has to have the last word.
Yeah.
So whether it's Arteta or Guardiola in the press conference, and a player's going to come out, and there's always something to carry that game on into the next couple of days.
Yeah. Yeah. Although maybe we will see a change now that we've got Kevin De Bruyne captain and not Kyle Walker. Who knows? Because Walker was part of the carry-on last season, I think, with Nicholas Jova not shaking his hand, things like that.
As you say that, I've got the image of De Bruyne getting those cups pelted at him at the Emirates and kicking them away. And,
but De Bruyne is much more move on, who cares kind of thing.
Absolutely. In terms of football, Marmoush comes in, do we think? Can we trust Stones to start again? If so...
I think you would try and trust Stones to start again.
It's probably even harsher to throw Kusanov back in.
Yeah.
You can give him a debut against Chelsea at the Etihad, and that's difficult. But with all those things we just said, Arsenal will absolutely target him if he starts. And
also Arsenal are a big physical team, and Núñez does have physicality and things like that. So it might be his last dance kind of thing at right back. But yeah, it's tricky because Ake and Diaz are still out, so you've kind of got to go Stones, Akanji and Guardiola and probably Núñez.
I suppose the alternative is moving Guardiola in the centre and putting Lewis in the line, but he seems to be purposely taking Lewis out of the spotlight at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Lewis at left back is the solution in that scenario.
No, and it's also, again, famous last words, but it doesn't feel like, especially with Saka out, like Arsenal have the players to sort of really torment or embarrass a defender kind of thing, or
it feels
midfielder
like
/ winger trying to be a defender. Yeah. So I think City might get away with it, but it will be getting away with it. That's the thing.
There's going to be a weak link in that defence, whatever happens.
Yeah.
Even if Stones is fit and plays 90 minutes and he's fine.
Yeah. I mean, City had a
mark.
better defence for the reverse fixture, and Arsenal still scored twice and held on with 10 men. Nearly got the win.
Pieces are going to be an interesting one. Depending on who plays for City. I think I'd be tempted to put Marmoush in. I think he had an okay debut, and I've reflected more on it over time and thought it was better than I thought it was while watching him against Chelsea. But I mean, he was offside and cost a goal, and that was maybe opening night nerves. But he linked the Haaland and the midfield a bit better than we've seen all season. So I don't know if there's a knock-on effect with, do you start De Bruyne? What do you do with Bernardo in that instance? I mean, Gundogan probably drops out, but you've still got to protect Kovacic. But I think having someone closer to Haaland probably helps. And what Marmoush did was put himself about and get involved and get stuck in, and I think that could help.
Yeah, I think so. The only question I'd have is whether, Savinho seems to have done enough to earn a start. So if Savinho's coming in, and even if like Gundogan drops off, so you're like from the other night, who drops out for Marmoush? And I'm not sure there's an easy option. I'm sure some fans would just be like, well, Bernardo, he don't do anything. But
then you've got a one-man midfield of Kovacic. And
that
doesn't quite work.
No. So, possible that Foden or De Bruyne drops out. But
I mean, I'd love to see an attack of Haaland, Foden, De Bruyne, Marmoush and Savinho and just go for it and just get a 5-4 win or something.
Yeah, that'd be fun to watch. But yeah, so I'm not sure if Savinho is just kind of like inched out Marmoush with his second half performance. But Marmoush was a player when he signed and is a player from his debut that you think, well, yeah, he looks like he can do something.
Any prediction? I think I might say this every week, but it's a very hard one to call. I think it could be a 0-0, one goal in it, or a 3-4 thriller or something.
I think it might be 2-1 Arsenal, but they've certainly put themselves in a position where they can win the game. I'd just be concerned about the defence and, like you say, Arsenal's strength with set pieces.
I think I'll go in the middle of my two and just go for a 2-2 draw, which is...
Yeah. I mean, coming away with anything from the Emirates in the state that they were in would be good.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, as little drama for us as possible.
Yeah, but also if you're looking at like they're playing the teams around, they're playing like the top 6 basically, aren't they? Like they beat Chelsea, so that's 3 points on the board. So you've got to look at Arsenal within this run, and if they can pick up anything from Arsenal, then suddenly they're at home to Newcastle thinking, right, we've already played 2 top 4 teams and we've not lost to them, so advantage us. So I think the longer they can go without those sort of sapping defeats, the stronger they'll be.
They take the title runs game by game, don't they?
Yeah.
But I think this is one where they've definitely got to do that, and for a different end goal.
Yeah.
But it's just take it one by one and try and do what you can and build on that.
Yeah. Also, we should say that City's win on Wednesday and a few other wins mean that it's, I think, pretty much guaranteed that the top 5 get Champions League next year.
United and Spurs going through also helps.
So it's not a top 4 race, it's a top 5 race, which makes it even more comfortable. But I think they should still be aiming for second, and they'll be in a much better place for second if they can beat the team who are currently in second.
And if you say City, you'll finish 5th and qualify for the Champions League by default, they probably wouldn't be happy with that. They'd want to finish as high as possible and and go from there. We'll be down at the Emirates on Sunday to see how that happens. Hopefully no fires on the way.
Well, we should also say as well that we are in the fortunate position of being able to go down for work reasons, but the trains are a mess.
Oh God, yeah.
There are no direct trains from Manchester to London, no direct trains from Leeds to London. We're going from Sheffield. It's another one of those where it's not easy for supporters to get to where they need to be.
It's always in London, isn't it? When I know that's where the strikes happen, but
there's always some part of the line that is an issue. And
it's never when City are at home or they've got Wolves or...
Well, I think it is. It's not like a Man City thing. It's a problem for all fans all the time, everywhere. Like getting from London to Manchester or London to Liverpool or London to... It's just... It's a mess, and an expensive mess at that. So, yeah, fair play to anyone who is making it down however they are going.
But my prediction would be you would not notice that at all in the away end. It'll be packed.
No, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Every day, whatever happens.
But that is it. It's fans putting up with things again.
Yeah, and there's always something going on with fans and tickets and travel, and we'll continue to say that. So yeah, good. good memory just before we finish to raise that. Yeah, we'll be down at the Emirates via Sheffield and see what happens there. And you can follow all that on the Manchester Evening News. You'll know who City have in the playoff round by the time you're watching this, so half of our conversation is redundant, but you can follow all the reaction to that on the MEN side. You're going to this Pep Guardiola's press conference where he'll be asked about Real Madrid or Barcelona, and he will say Arsenal and nothing else, and that will be that. But yeah, if you give us a follow, a like, a comment, a subscribe, wherever you are watching or listening to us, that would be appreciated, and we will be back next week ahead of deadline day and after Arsenal to see what's happening, because there's not going to be a fixture, but it's going to be quite a busy one, I think, next week. So
yeah. Tell us if you like the new studio.
Yeah, it's pretty impressed.
Yeah.
It's better than my spare room for a start. So yeah, thanks for joining us, and we'll be back next week.